Welcome to Leadership Talks with Ratiba Mohali, and today I've got an amazing guest, and this is a conversation that I've been waiting for. And in my heart, I'm prayerful about it that whoever's gonna be listening to this conversation, may it change their life, may it be something they've been waiting to listen to, and may it move a certain part of their life, and it forces them or causes them to take action in certain areas of their life that they need to. So, welcome, Mr. Zulu.
Welcome, Dad. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, to those who don't know you, I think you are a very well known man. So, so to those who don't know you, who is Kwazini Zulu? Where does he come from? And yeah, where he was raised, and also what inspired you to become the person that you are today?
That's always an interesting question when you need to talk about yourself.
I know.
As I try to learn, I can never get used to it.
Yeah.
I guess so. My name is Kwazini Zulu. So indeed, ngumntwana, ngundabezitha, nguMageba,
The royalty.
nguSithandaba. Izwe lethu nje lonke leli
Indlela
ngirentile la
zimhlophe.
rapile.
Yebo.
So I'm born and bred in Durban, KZN. Um, yeah, and I love the city. I love the province. And I'm here in South Africa. I grew up in Mlazi. I think we moved around a lot, Sisakula,
Mm,
because I was raised by a single parent.
mm,
After my own father passed on when I was very young, he
mm.
was actually murdered.
Yo,
Kabuhlungu.
sure.
Um, I don't think you knew this lead.
No, it's a first time, yes.
Yeah. So as a result, umawethu kwakufanele ayosebenza kude. So she actually went to work in the UK
Sure.
so that she
Mm,
can try and build a better life for us and
mm,
educate us.
mm.
Because she realized with him financially she wasn't gonna cope
Yes.
with investing, the type of resources in our education in our future. So she made the sacrifice and she actually went overseas. Was there for about 20 years.
Sure.
Over, yeah, so at best, we saw her. If we were lucky, we saw her once a year.
Mm,
If we were lucky, sisakhula. So as a result, sakhula emlazi-ke kagogo.
mm,
Ngahlala kaThini nakaW. We have a lot of family in Mlazi. It was very interesting because in the township, my grandmother,
mm.
for the longest time, I didn't realize who she was an entrepreneur
Mm.
because wayidayisa iy'qeda ngazi uyazazi iy'qeda Ratiba.
Spade.
Iy'qeda like those giant ice blocks
Oh,
that are
I see.
flavored
Okay, I see. I see.
that are
Yes.
sold in
Yes.
the townships.
Mm.
So she used to sell that along with fish
Wow.
and
Mm.
ujete.
Sure.
So you'd wake up very early in the morning.
Mm.
She'd sell, taxi ranks, train stations, buses, etc. Because at the time, I think in our household, there was probably about 13 of us,
Mm. Mm.
in that household. So she had to take care of that entire family. Um, yeah, so it was quite interesting. So I mean, I was that kid who was always curious, very naughty, ngangigangile ngikhula, yabo.
Mm.
But I think I was always just fascinated with the idea of people coming to my home, buying this flavored ice block,
Yes.
bashir 10 cent, yabo,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
later on 20 cent. So I'd
Yeah.
watch this exchange and it just fascinated me.
Mm.
So obviously at the time I had no idea what was going on. But I think I was just fascinated by the exchange layer. Um, And then yeah, so I think that was my the first time I was introduced to the concept of entrepreneurship
Mm,
or business.
mm,
But I had no idea at the time. So yeah, so I was raised by some phenomenal people who contributed a lot in my journey.
mm,
Uh, and then I think I went on to study. I think primary, high school. Did my undergraduate at UKZN and
mm.
in clinical industrial psychology. That was my undergrad. Postgrad, I did marketing and supply chain
Wow.
at UKZN. I know the pivot. What on earth does psychology have
Yes,
to
to do.
do with commerce
Mm,
subjects? That's because I fell in love with business entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, making a
mm,
change in communities using the power of business
mm,
by being an active student. And yeah, the entrepreneurial bug bit me hard, big time. And fast forward now, my career is predominantly in the realms of business and leadership.
yes.
So I run a consulting firm called Kulisha Consulting, which is a transformation and training consultancy where we do a
Mm,
lot of work in the entrepreneurship development space, the training space, really developing leaders, entrepreneurial leaders in Africa.
mm,
And I also speak professionally when I have the opportunity to work with some organizations and corporates and teams,
mm,
as a speaker, as a facilitator, as a keynote speaker, etc.
mm.
So that's me in a nutshell, that man.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack. Similarities is that I was also raised by a mother alone. And when the father was alive somewhere, he left when, so I didn't know about your dad, man. Condolences on that. Um, I know it's been a long time, but my question around that is, how did his, unfortunate scene that happened with him shape you as a man today?
Hey, that's such a big question. Bengithi uzoyiqala soft le nto Rathima.
Yeah, okay, I wanted to go to Gogo because
um,
there's kids who are raised by grandma by Gogos fascinates me because they always either end up being, great people in the society at large. And I'm always fascinated by the psychology around that. What is it that our grannies do, you know, to
mm,
empower this child, even though the parents were not nearby? But most of the time, like you said, mom was away to work. What is it that the
mm.
grannies do that instills something in this, child and it end up becoming something greater?
Yeah, I think grades are very special people.
Mm.
Um, banaleya secret ingredient angazi kanjani
Yeah.
that they have. I think because the way that they treat you as grandchildren is different from the way that they raise and treat their own kids.
Mm,
I think when it comes to grandchildren, there's a lot of love, leniency. Omunye athi ungamboni ugogo wakhe senje
mm,
kuqala used to be super strict, or you would never be caught dead doing such and such a thing. You guys have it softer. She's gone softer over the years.
mm,
So I think it's that love and that warmth and the embrace. It almost reminds me of like a Christ-like love. Yeah,
yes. Mm,
that is unconditional in a large sense. And I think that unwavering, unconditional love creates an environment of, support
mm,
and acceptance and, encouraging you to be the best that you can be and, the best version of yourself. Like, akekho umuntu, or
mm.
at least I've never come across anyone, Oti, um, they've never, the thought of disappointing their grandmother
Yes.
had never haunted them. Yeah, bo.
Yes. They see their mother, they see them and all that, but my granny, I must
Yeah.
not
Oh,
disappoint
granny,
Ukok.
granny. ugogo has that special place ukuthi ngeke udlalele gogo yabo ngenza noma yini to anyone but not ugogo. So I think that's what grannies carry. And I think back to your earlier question about how has the
Mm,
passing of my father shaped me as a man today in a tremendous way. So
mm,
ngikhula, I became a very rebellious kid, my
mm,
brother.
mm.
So typical kulele lokishini, with no father figure
Yes.
in the home,
Mm,
and more especially with the way in which my dad was killed and murdered. I
mm,
think it built up a resentment
mm,
or an anger somewhere inside of me, and I was obviously unaware at the time.
mm,
And I found ukuthi I started seeking solace, acceptance, encouragement, teaching, and direction in terms of the way of life
mm,
as a boy, as a boy child.
mm,
And Leon Doleo led me to seek comfort and belonging and acceptance in things that are not healthy, that are not
mm,
progressive, and that are not helpful.
mm.
So as a result, I found myself, very deep in drugs and alcohol and,
Sure.
being a womanizer, a woman
Mm,
with that entire life as a
mm,
kid, more and I was
mm,
really on the extreme end
mm,
of that lifestyle, party lifestyle, clubbing lifestyle, drug lifestyle,
mm.
even to a point of hanging out with what you might call like gangsters or
Or
abantu
thugs. Yeah.
who are thugs who are in criminal behavior,
Mm,
to a large extent, and that became my life,
sure.
kakhulu in some respects.
Mm,
And I think my life changed when I had an encounter with Jesus, man.
mm,
I'll never forget it. 14 October 2012, my life was never the same again. I encountered the love of Christ,
mm,
and believe it or not, ngakhala ngatetema,
sure.
like a child who's being bullied and waphucwa toys.
Mm, mm,
I wept in front of so many people.
mm,
Um, and what made me weep was for the first time in my life, I encountered true unconditional love.
mm,
It was like I had this void to give me for all this time, and I was seeking to fill the void in the wrong places.
mm,
Nganginesikhala ngaphakathi and ngangifuna ukuyigcwalisa lento, but I didn't know what it was for. And later on, I now understand that everyone is born with what I call a built-in desire
sure.
to know God,
Mm,
and no one can escape it.
yes.
So we seek to fill this void with everything: alcohol, social acceptance, drugs, sex. It was
Mm,
and even this toxic, unhealthy performance culture.
yes.
Abanye abantu, they look at someone who's driven, who's progressive, who's smashing goals and successful. And abazi ukuthi at the foundation of this performance culture is an
Mm,
unhealthy place of seeking social approval and acceptance, yabo, and
mm,
validation
ish.
externally,
Oh,
because you're not anchored in your own identity, yabo.
mm,
So that was a big thing for me. It was massive for me, and it defined a lot of how I moved and operated. And then impilo yashintsha mfowethu after meeting Christ, because for the first time I didn't have to perform for anyone.
mm,
I didn't have to do anything to be loved, accepted, approved,
yes.
worthy. So Christ became my identity, and from that place, my entire life changed. I think one of the most fundamental things for me as a man, namhlanje,
Mm,
it was God had to reveal Himself as a father to me first.
yes. Feeling that gap.
Yes, sir. So He
Mm,
had to father me. So I had to unlearn so much.
mm,
Esifundiswa yona ey'tradini, emalokishini, yabo.
mm,
in our environments.
mm,
I had to unlearn all of that, and so Christ fundamentally shaped my identity and all the values and principles engiphila ngawo namhlanje as a man came from being healed and that void being filled and that discovery of who I am.
mm. Sure. I think that's a testimony of how God can change someone's life and
Mm,
beyond accolades and everything that we acquire, that is something you can stand and say, I've seen God turn things around for me. I'm not saying anybody else, but I've seen him in my own life, practically shifting life upside down for me. And I think that's that's
mm.
that's very powerful. Yo, that's very powerful, man.
Absolutely, my brother. Absolutely, man. I think Abantu,
Mm,
we're living in a fatherless generation, my
agreed.
brother.
Yeah. Mm,
And it's actually what I would even dare call a pandemic, but it's such a
mm,
subtle pandemic
yes.
of absent fathers
Mm,
and fatherless households because the role that fathers and men play in society, in the family unit, in our
mm,
communities, in our workplaces, is tremendous.
mm,
And for me, that the absence of my father, being no longer present in my life,
mm,
um, was a big source of my rebellion,
yes.
and my anger and everything that I was as a young boy growing up.
Mm,
So I think their fatherlessness,
mm,
their role model of your own father teaching you the ways of life, umuntu ongabukela kuyena, yabo,
mm,
guiding you, directing you, you know, telling you what's what, and I just had to figure it out.
mm,
Yabo, it's such a dangerous thing to have young men and boys just going floating throughout life, figuring things out
mm,
because there are no good role models, men and fathers in society abangakhombisa indlela. So it's a
mm.
big one. It's a big one. So.
You are touching a subject that it's a very close to my heart because and I find myself now raising a son, right? I find myself now
Mm,
raising a son, but I didn't have a father to raise me like your story. And maybe I'll say fortunate for me was I grew up in church, so I wasn't exposed much to the life outside of church. So that kind of God somehow protected me, you know, through that. But
mm,
the missing link of a father always haunted me because I didn't know what type of a father I'm gonna be. I didn't
mm,
know who to model um
mm,
with my own life. And now I find myself raising a son and grateful to God that one, grow into knowing Christ, who is a father to the fatherless. And
mm,
you get to be taught that, and you also meet, practical other husbands or fathers who are there in person to see what they do. I see now,
mm,
like my son, when you say somebody to look up to, I see my son, if I take a tissue and wipe my nose, he wants the tissue to do the same thing, even though he doesn't have, even though he doesn't have anything on his nose, but he just want to do that act. And and
yeah,
and
yeah.
that the day I saw it, that shifted me. Is like, you know what? Whatever I'm doing now, I must model something so that this
Mm,
person
mm,
copies, that
mm,
thing that is, a good thing. So I was like, and you touching that because I think yesterday or day before, if you go on my timeline, you will see I posted something about young men. It's because there's been a deep thing inside of me about the young men that are coming even after us, that
mm,
nobody talks to them, nobody
mm,
brother them, nobody,
mm,
becomes a big
mm,
brother to these kids. And
mm,
and it's a pandemic, like you're saying, because you like and these people are gonna be fathers, are gonna be husbands, are gonna be partners. What type of
mm,
partners are gonna be when they don't have the model and to grow up with,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
and because
Yeah.
the struggle is later when you are older, habits are hard to break
Mm,
than something you have grown up
mm,
with as you grow up and understand this is how you treat a woman, this is how you become a man, this is
yeah.
what
Yeah.
masculinity is, not what is
Yeah.
explained, and this is why it
Yeah.
is good, this is why it can be bad. All
Mm.
those different things that I think you're touching on a, maybe to double down on that. So, what can we do, maybe our own generation, to add a hand to that because we come from the same system of fatherlessness and we are now trying to build our own families. But what can we do for also the young men that are coming up? Because we are learning as well. We don't know. We learning by
Yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
what can we do with the little experience we have to empower the guys that are coming before us?
It's such a big question, and I don't
Mm,
really have the answer for it. But
mm,
I'm just reminded as you're asking me this question, I'm reminded by there's a dear sister of mine in Christ who's now a pastor,
mm,
who once called me into a meeting.
yeah.
Yabo. And she was so formal, and I didn't understand why she's so formal all of
Yeah.
a sudden.
Yeah.
Um, and she said to me, "Hey, I was thinking, and I have this burden about young men,
Mm,
and I've come to ask you, Uti, what are you doing
mm,
about this issue that we have with young men are not supported, they're left behind?"
mm.
And a part of me wanted to say, "Aibo, wazobuza mina," yabo,
Yes.
to say, "Aibo, hey, ukazobuza mina leyo nto, ngihlangana naphi naleyo nto." But then I realized, a part of me realized ukuthi as men, or not phela sisakhula, but as men who have modeled something that is helpful or somewhat praiseworthy
Mm,
or progressive,
mm,
in a sense that people identify and they ask you, Uguti, what are you doing for the next generation? It means, Uguti, we've we've got at least a few things correct.
yes.
It's possible that, not even possible, it's true that there's a lot we don't know, but
Mm,
there are things that we do know.
mm.
And the best thing, in her words, my brother, Dabizita, from today, this is my plea: take someone with you.
Sure.
And that's a leadership conversation,
Yes.
because the best leaders, in order for leadership to thrive as a culture,
Mm,
and in order for leadership to multiply, the leader must be taking someone with them.
yes.
So it's no longer enough to be satisfied with my status, my position, what I've achieved, or the things that I've gotten right. So instead of basking and being comfortable in those things, I need to ask myself the next best question, which is, who am I taking with me? So it
Mm,
means, as men, we need to actively look for opportunities where there are other young men, whether in our age bracket
mm,
or below us, that
mm,
we are actively journeying with, talking to,
mm,
meeting regularly, having conversations about being a man.
mm,
Yeah, well,
mm,
and so I think for far too long our social circles have influenced and decided the culture of the time,
yes.
and the culture of the time, unfortunately, decides how people behave
Sure.
and how people identify themselves. That's the thing
Mm,
about culture.
mm,
And it happens, intentionally, unintentionally, consciously, subconsciously. A lot of these trends, whether it's technology, Channel O, or social media, or even just social circles, ukuhlala nje namajita around
mm,
in a social space. So those conversations, because they are unfiltered, they're unchecked, they are unguarded, and they're not monitored, and There's no
mm,
intentionality behind them. They're just driven by populism and
mm,
whatever is seen by Amajid to be cool
mm,
in that time.
mm,
That influences culture, and that culture ultimately shapes our identities and our behaviors.
mm,
So if we can just flip that on its head and start creating social spaces intentionally to
mm,
have a different conversation about leadership, a different conversation about what being a man means,
mm, mm.
and how we ought to function and operate. So I think that can be one of the things that we can really just start doing.
Definitely, I definitely agree with you. I'm one of those people who still believe that families build societies, and then societies build um, communities and nations at large.
Mm,
And there is obviously a breaking in how the family structure is now, and how we want it to be built. There's many beliefs and all that. So, and I think what you're saying in terms of taking someone on, carrying someone on, having intentional conversations that are guided and that are intentional in terms of the direction of where they are supposed to go, and
mm,
we'll definitely see a move. And as we just need to carry somebody. It doesn't really have to be 100 people. Your immediate
mm,
community, your immediate church brothers,
mm. Yes,
that
sir.
cultivating of those conversations, I think is very important. And I think, like you said, and the sister said, it's a burden on us to do that. I'm also
Mm,
challenged as well to have somebody that while I'm
mm,
learning, I'm sharing with them, and
mm.
I'm having a conversation with them on the side. Yeah.
Absolutely, my brother. I think one of the things ezenza ukuthi even I reflect on
Mm.
how mentorship is sometimes tricky for men,
Yes, yes,
and how mentorship in any capacity, whether it's
yes,
work or business or ministry, abanye abantu they end up feeling because men are territorial in nature. Yabo.
yes, yes.
We have that thing of wanting to be at the top of the food chain, right?
Mm,
To be on top, to just be the guy on top, and
mm,
um, it can be good when channeled and used correctly, but
yeah.
the
Mm,
destructive side is when we fail to recognize people that we are supposed to be taking along with us.
mm,
And we start, so the empty ego starts to persuade us into
mm,
thinking that everyone is a threat, everyone is an opposition or a challenge, or it
mm,
starts to become a self-inflated ego, and we tend to massage it by instead of opening the doors for others, we close them,
mm.
right? Because why must another person be on the top if I'm on the top?
Ish.
And all of this happens at a very deep psychological level. I'm a
Mm,
student of psychology, so I understand some of these things. And
mm,
the worst part is that we go through life without even being aware or conscious about how we respond to our environment and other people and how we interact with them.
mm,
And I think that type of empty ego, um, insecurity of iyona into esivimbayo from being effective in taking other people along with us.
mm,
Because the effective leader, or what I call a transformational leader, they understand ukuthi in order for them to become a person of significance,
mm.
there must be someone that you've taken along with you
Yes,
who's either gone on to match your level of effectiveness and success or exceeded you.
yes,
Because the moment there is someone who I've worked with who has gone on to do greater things than me, then it means I become a person of significance
yes.
as a result of how I've reproduced, other people of similar
Mm.
values, of function,
Caliber.
of stature,
Mm,
of caliber.
mm.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that across quickly.
Yeah, and I think
It's an
that
NP.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very powerful thing for somebody who is a leader to understand that your success is going to be counted by the impact you make on others or by how many leaders you reproduce, not how much
Mhm,
wealth you have amassed yourself or how many big positions you have held in your time or whatever,
mhm,
but we're gonna see templates that you have left that are still, multiplying from what you have taught them. And I think that's something that every leader needs to understand in their journey of what they're doing.
mhm,
Because sometimes people also call themselves transformational leaders or growth coaches or different things. But when growth comes, it's uncomfortable um, for for them because now this person has to leave or now this person has to go somewhere else where they've grown over what you have given them and now they need
mhm,
to detach from you to go and impact somewhere else and
mhm,
do what you have done to them to another person.
mhm.
Yeah,
And then
so
asifuni-ke lapho thina ukuthi ba-detach, yabo?
eh,
Because there's a fear of
yeah,
of being irrelevant, yabo?
mm,
Uh, so again, it's that empty ego thing,
sure,
this obsession with being relevant, yabo?
mm,
That even when I need to let go of certain things, people,
mm,
practices, and for the sake of growth and the next level, I struggle. Yabo?
mm,
So it's it's such an interesting thing
sure.
that happens.
Yeah, I'm interested in you mentioned mentorship and you mentioned in terms of men, um, like beyond the ego, right? What is it psychologically that men struggle with in terms of saving another man? Because I always say this, at the center of your growth and success, it's that service. Because
Mhm,
for you to learn other things, you must serve someone else first to absorb their knowledge. Because you cannot come in as their equal and think you're gonna absorb their
mhm,
knowledge from them. So what is it that with us, maybe gents, that we have a psychological struggle? And I see it mostly even in the church where we have less men in the church, or even if they come, they hardly participate or serve or do other things. They just come and go. And then women are the ones, serving and doing all that. What is it psychologically in men that we have that is a struggle to um serve the next person or to lower ourselves and be able to learn and absorb from somebody.
mhm. That's such a great question. When you find the answer, to let me know. I suspect,
Yeah,
I can only just suspect, right, based on
yes,
observation. So I think so. As part of this empty ego conversation, I think that's going to become a really big theme of what we're talking about. But
yes, yeah.
a big part of this empty ego um, thing is kulumangayo is the pride of a man,
Mm,
and the pride of a man generally in any space, it becomes difficult to submit
mm,
if I haven't dealt with the issue of pride.
see.
Because I know, contrary to popular belief, there is some pride that is good. A certain dosage
Yes.
of pride is good,
Mm,
but there's a certain level in which it becomes destructive and unhealthy.
mm,
And as long as our pride and our ego remains unchecked,
mm,
then we will fundamentally struggle to submit
mm,
or to serve,
mm.
because serving by nature involves submission.
Yes.
It means almost ukuzibeka ngemuva wena, and
Mm,
serving other people and organizations and customers and clients and spaces,
mm,
um, more than yourself.
mm.
And it's a principle that Jesus spoke about. Because kathi kubuzwa kuthiwa, can my sons
Mm.
sit on your right and on your left in your kingdom? And
Yes.
Jesus is I born it's only the Father in heaven who knows such things. But
Yeah.
regardless, whoever is to be great amongst you
Mm.
must become the servant to everyone
Yes.
else, and
Mm.
that's the principle.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think I wanna we've got a couple of minutes before it cuts, and then we obviously will come back to use the same link to join back. Um so I wanted to touch on something because I see that you are a contributive citizen, right? So this term I've learned about it even recently as well from a guy called Mpom Makwana. He's one of the leadership people in the country who have served in different a very sound leader. He speaks about contributive citizenship, which was made, I think, was covered by some guy called David Brooks in his book, The Second Mountain. It which just simply speaks of somebody who identifies an area where they can contribute in a society. You become a person who is a contributor to the society in different facets of what society requires. You don't wait for anybody to tell you. You remove the self-centeredness to become somebody of service and commit to serve either your community. You define an area of service where you want to serve either your community, either in business, either in leadership, in all that. So what has shaped you to be such a contributive citizen that you are today? Welcome back.
Yeah, but yes, we're back.
Yes, so my question was around there's a concept called contributive citizen, right? I've recently heard about it from a guy called Mpho Makwana, who is a South African businessman and a leader. Um, and then he mentions that somebody who speaks about it is an author called David Brooks, who wrote it in his book. He mentions it's a concept around removing self-centered individualism to becoming a people of service, lives of service and commitment to our society. And I see you as somebody who is a very contributor to a contributive citizen to your environment, to your space that you're in. Um, and so I would like to know is what shaped you to be um such a contributive citizen within your space, your environment, even from where you come from, to where you are and how you're working today. What has shaped you to say, I want to also um develop or help other people to become impactful people in the society?
There's a quote that I usually refer to. It profoundly impacted my life,
Mm,
and ithi angisazi ukuthi yayikhulunywa ubani lento, but ithi that our fingerprints never fade from the lives that we've touched.
sure. Mm,
And I look at my own life and my entire journey. There are so many fingerprints
mm,
of so many people
mm,
at every single stage of my life.
yeah.
And I can confidently say, namhlanje, ukuthi I am a product of people believing in me, people helping me, people supporting me,
Mm,
and people seeing potential in me that I didn't see in myself.
mm,
So understanding this idea of the impact of fingerprints on a person's life and journey.
Mm,
And I think it that's what influences how I view this idea of being a contributing citizen.
citizen. Yeah.
So I have to be a citizen who contributes. I mean, if we're not doing that, then why are we here?
Mm,
Yeah, well, so, so for me, it becomes an empty life if it's lived without making an impact
mm,
on people, on businesses, on environments, on institutions and communities, etc. It becomes an empty life because my own purpose is to take people on a journey of self-discovery and one step closer to themselves, is what I
mm,
usually say.
mm,
So it's a core part of what I believe to be my purpose. Because if I'm not doing that, then why am I here? Yeah.
mm, mm. Sure. So how important it is in living that impactful life, how important it is to have a vision for yourself as a person, something that will guide how you navigate this world and how you view your impact throughout society. How important it is to have that vision. And I want us to tap into the conversation we had before around corporate and visions that we serve in the corporates, and how can somebody find, firstly is like how important it is to have a vision, secondly is like um do you need to have a vision first before you do something, or sometimes you find it while you're doing something in the process, and third is can you find a vision within someone else's vision?
You ask such great questions, man. No wonder you are a top tier um, podcaster on leadership.
Thank you, sir.
Um, yeah, I mean, vision is important. Um, I think everything starts with vision,
Mm,
and vision simply is to see things for what to see things for everything they could become,
mm,
contrary to your current reality.
sure.
And I believe what the human spirit has the capacity because it's timeless, right? The human
Mm,
spirit is timeless.
mm,
So we have visions and dreams that are coded in our human spirit
yes.
that are timeless now. And a lot of the times because sometimes a vision or a dream is not clear, right? Or you have no
Yes.
idea what your purpose,
Yes.
and as a result, you become stuck.
Mm,
And what I usually say is that the discovery of purpose or vision is a journey and not an event.
mm,
So we put ourselves under so much of pressure to get everything right instantaneously, to
mm,
have it all figured out before I move,
mm,
to have all the ducks in a row before I start whatever I
mm,
need to start.
mm,
Gandhi, it's a fallacy because any vision bearer that has gone on to be celebrated in a big way has had to discover that vision or that purpose or that journey along the way.
mm,
And no vision starts off as clear. It changes along the way. It
mm.
evolves. I believe that vision evolves
Yes.
because people, dynamics, economies, and times and cultures evolve.
Mm,
So it means a vision must also evolve.
yes.
And by nature, being evolving means change. It
Mm,
means it's not static, it's not fixed.
mm,
It has a certain level of agility and fluidity to it
mm,
that must adapt. And that's what I believe vision and purpose is about. and you discover it, it becomes, any vision that you pursue becomes clearer as you work
Mm.
on it.
Sure.
Everything, whether you're
Mm.
building a business, an organization, a project, whatever it is, a career, it
Mm.
becomes clearer and more defined
Mm.
as you labor on it, as you work on
Work
it.
on it.
And because you find that the puzzles are all over the place in your head,
Yes.
and we become overwhelmed and stressed out, and become anxious. Where should I start? What should I do? And if
Mm.
we just tackle the simple things, the basic things, and do them first without letting go of the outcome, I think is
Mm.
important.
Sure. Yo,
I
I think
think
you're,
letting
yeah,
go of the outcome, yeah,
yeah, yo,
is
because
important.
I'm tempted to go on the marriage conversation, um, because you when you speak about pressure, you're even in the church, we often pressurize, or we maybe not intentionally, but we say you must have everything figured out. You must have a vision. You must have this. You must have um, money. You must have all these different things, right? I don't disagree. They're very important, right? But now, but often somebody who's saying this is not, I feel that they're not being honest in terms of they didn't come with all the cars they have. They didn't come with all the houses they have. They didn't come with all the money they have now. You know, but this young man who's trying to figure out things, who's got a way where they're going, they can articulate it, but they might not have, they
Mm,
can't piece it out together right now
mm,
to be this complete thing. But they have a journey they are going to. You can see that this person is going somewhere. They're articulating it. They are moving in that direction. They are behaving in that way. And then you'll find this person who says, you must have everything together before you even get married. What's your take on that conversation? Because I feel like it makes people scared to even think about marriage because I don't have this. I don't, now my vision is not clear. I can't articulate fully incomplete what is my purpose. But there are elements of my life that shows that your direction is supposed to go this way.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I think the principle, the view,
Mm,
or the perspective is the same.
mm,
I think it's a fallacy. Inganekwane,
mm,
lento yokuthi you need to have everything figured out.
mm,
Because I can tell you now for free, akekho noyedwa umuntu who
mm.
has everything figured out.
Yes.
Even the people that are operating at the highest level of society, of corporate, of business, there you'll find surprisingly, ukuthi
Mm.
nabo, they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. They're just winging it
But
as they are going.
yeah, but obviously it's some level of calculation and strategy, etc.
Yes, yes.
But the truth is, akekho umuntu ozowazi ukuthi how this thing's going to turn out.
Mm.
And so the idea of letting go of the outcome is important because it must take center stage. Because
Yes.
if I let go of the outcome and I focus on strategy, vision, approach, the things that I have figured out or that I can do at least at a basic level, and I
Mm.
give myself entirely to that as best as I can, then surely I will reap the results.
Mm.
And I mean results in two ways. Results could mean you do the thing and you find out that it actually works,
Mm.
and you do it a bit more and it
Mm.
continues to work and you become successful in it.
Yes.
Or you do the thing and you find unfavorable results that show you
Mm.
that the thing doesn't really work, and you can find that out sooner, which means you can cut your losses a whole lot sooner. You
Yes.
can put away the branches that are not bearing fruit.
Mm.
I was with a buddy mentor of mine a couple of weeks ago. He said something very profound. He
Mm.
said to me, And he's an atheist, by the way, fully fledged atheist. This guy.
Wow.
Uthi kumina, Mageba niyangixaka nina because this thing is in your Bible.
Yes.
He said it's in your Bible that the things that are not bearing fruit, the branches that are not bearing fruit, they need to
Must
be
be
cut
cut.
down
Yes.
and thrown into the fire. So
Mm.
why are you guys holding on to things that are not bearing any fruit
Yo.
and results? And it made me reflect so deeply. And his entire stance was cut your losses early. You
Mm.
know, do the thing, do the things that you want to do, and then
Mm.
start to really measure what where's the fruit.
Mm. Prune it.
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be big fruit.
Mm.
Doesn't have to be ultra success. Doesn't have to be big money.
Mm.
But where are the things that are showing at least little signs of success?
Mm.
And devote yourself entirely to those things.
Mm.
Because you know what we do is because success yakhona is too insignificant for us.
Mm.
Because someone somewhere has lied to us on TikTok, this is what
So
progress or success
looks like.
must look like.
Sure.
And we all gravitate and obsess with that idea, which might have been unique to that individual, mind
Mm.
you.
Mm.
And the premise of it is focus on the things that show some level of success. La kukhona khona nje some fruit, a little bit of traction, a little bit of success,
Mm.
anything that is helpful or progressive,
Mm.
and then devote yourself entirely to that and do your best.
Mm.
And then you find, Uti, if on a smaller scale, in small decisions, in small acts, it yielded, some the type of results that I want to see. Then
Yes.
it means I need to give more input into those things, which will
Mm.
mean ultimately they'll need to bigger results in the direction in which I want. So the same principle is the same for everything: business, career,
Mm.
family, marriage.
Yeah.
Absolutely the same thing. Nobody has it figured out. We
Mm.
just need to. I mean, it's interesting because I'm on the process myself this year.
Yes. Yes. Mm.
It's interesting that I'm talking about something that I'm actively
Mm.
experiencing and in.
Yes.
If you see
Mm.
what you want and it has the value that you're
Mm.
looking for the type of life that you want to build,
Mm.
then you don't need to have 200,000 rand in
Mm.
order to initiate any step.
Mm.
Well, madoda amaningi, they I want to build the inheritance first. I want to build the legacy first. I want to have 1 million rand in my account first. That was me, by the way, at some
Mm.
point in my life.
Yeah.
But I think wisdom has prevailed.
Yeah. No.
The wisdom that says you don't have to have everything figured out before you make a move.
I can
Because
attest
you,
to
you,
that.
you,
Yeah.
you, you won't shoot your shot and you won't make your move, and then somebody else will start that business.
Hey,
Somebody else
overthinking
will
will
propose
take
to the
over.
girl.
You will overthink
Somebody
until,
else will somebody else will propose to your wife.
you know, and they move. So I can attest to that, man. I can attest to that. Um, like especially when it comes to marriage, I think for me it was like, you know what, you want to marry this person. You don't have all the money in the world. Maybe you don't even have all the money they need, but we are going there. That's how I did my own things. I didn't have all the money in the world. I didn't have all a perfect job. I didn't have a job that will give me millions to where I can be able to buy my wife a car and all this. No, but I had enough to make me move. And when I suddenly decided I'm moving, certain things fell into place. I remember the week I was gonna pay Lobola at work, they suddenly increased my salary. They're like, okay, like the same month, like weird things happened. I'm like, sometimes God is waiting for us to just say, I'm doing this,
Yeah,
and things
yeah.
fall
We have
fall
to
into
move.
place.
There's something that my apostle, very profound. I'll never forget it. Never
Mm,
forget this thing. Umfundisi wami,
mm,
uThemba Mahlaba,
yeah.
my apostle and my father in the faith.
Mm,
He once said to me that there are a few types of people. So there are children of God. I'm
mm,
sorry to digress a bit, but I think it's
yes.
relevant for the conversation.
Mm,
He said that I think four types of people. There are children of God
mm,
who, well, they know they become you become a child of God by accepting Christ as your Lord, right? So you become a
mm,
child of God, and then there are sons of God,
mm,
and then there are men of God, and then there are heart of God.
mm,
Four types of people: children of
yes.
God, sons of God, men of God, heart of
Mm,
God.
yes.
And uti men of God, they wait for God to move
Sure.
before they move
Mm,
because they must be sure without a shadow of doubt that God is moving in that direction.
mm,
And then they move in that direction that God is moving.
mm,
But uti the heart of God, people who are the heart of God,
mm.
when they move, God
God
moves.
moves. Yo. Sure.
So they are inaction, their inactivity, them standing still
Mm,
makes heaven to stand still.
sure.
But when they move,
Mm,
heaven moves.
yo.
Completely changed my life. And
Yo.
and this has become a principle for me
Mm,
because it made me understand that if I'm the heart of God
mm,
and have an intimate relationship with my Father, God,
mm.
I don't need to wait for God to move before I move because
Yes.
when I move in line with His will, He will
Everything
move
moves. Yeah.
in my direction.
Yeah.
So that is so true.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Like I saw movements. The week I was gonna do that. Oh, I know. I was like, what? That week I was gonna do that. Salary increases. Suddenly you get money from somebody like, hey, bruh, I'm gonna give you this much. And you
Mm,
thinking,
mm,
I'm here alone, I need to go do this thing. And there are people that God somehow brings to just pour into to whatever movement, pour into your move and support that and help you with that. And I saw God move massively since then till today. And
yeah,
I'm never in doubt that God will definitely move whenever an opportunity
yeah,
comes and it's time to move. And it has been that throughout my life. So I want to
yeah.
ask
That
you,
is so good.
yeah,
That is so
what
good.
what is what is your leadership philosophy that you operate with?
I'm not sure if I'd call it a philosophy.
Yes, yeah.
Um, Unkalele, with I like to
Mm,
de um, you know, rip terminologies apart
yeah.
and
Yes.
and just rip things
Mm,
to what they really are, right?
yes.
I guess my approach and understanding
Mm,
towards leadership is that leadership is an extension of who you are.
mm,
It's an extension of who you are because you cannot achieve on the outside what you haven't achieved on the inside.
mm,
That's what I believe. So that's why I'm a student of leadership
mm,
uh, because I believe that in order for my effectiveness and my impact to increase on the outside,
mm,
I need to first increase it on the inside. And I
yes.
think Robin Sharma once said this in one of his books. He once said that if you want to double your income and your impact,
Mm.
triple the amount of investment that you make in yourself.
Your
Because the idea is the more valuable you become to society,
mm,
the more society is going to demand and be in need of what you carry.
mm,
So that's my philosophy when it comes to leadership.
mm.
It has to start with me.
Inside.
It has to start with me. I cannot expect from others
Mm.
what I don't practice and live.
Yeah,
You know, it's a
yeah,
misconception of leadership that
agreed.
you are telling others to change and do certain things when you are unwilling to change
Mm.
and do certain things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a danger and a misconception about leadership.
The deep work, the deep work.
Yes, sir.
Uh, so I think for you to be able to speak with conviction, um, and speak with authority and the knowledge, there has to be that hard work that you have to do on yourself first. Um, and the consumption, the learning, and so what do you normally do that fills your cup? What do you normally do that fills your cup so that you are able to then pour out the extension of yourself into maybe the work that you do, church, or the society at large, or your business as well? What do you normally do? What are your routines that you do to fill your cup first before you can pour out what is inside of you?
And I think as a leader and as a person that is in business, faith is a big part of it
Mm,
because, as mentioned, a lot of the time you have no idea what you're doing, right?
yeah.
So which means there has to be some level of faith.
Mm,
There has to be an element of belief and hope, something that fuels you. So I'm a Christian. I'm a faith-based person. So
mm,
prayer is a big part of my lifestyle.
mm,
And just studying the Word of God. Another thing that I do quite regularly is I read a lot. I'm an
mm,
avid reader, so I love. I believe in self development, personal development. I believe that education is a lifelong journey
mm,
that may start in the classroom, but it doesn't end there. So we need to self-educate, which
mm,
means an insane amount of time reading books that are relevant to my, business or career path or journey and life. Listening to content that teaches me, whether it's podcast or watching some stuff on, videos or other channels. And also just connecting with like-minded individuals, I think is a big one for me
mm.
because I'm an experiential learner.
I see.
That's my learning archetype, if you
Mm,
can put it like that, which
mm,
means I get a lot of satisfaction from meeting like-minded people,
mhm,
having conversations, learning from them,
mm,
their experiences, their perspectives, and their journey. I intentionally do that a lot,
mm,
which is why I have like a tribe of mentors and people that hold me accountable that are at ultra high levels of life and business and success.
mm,
And then I have people who are peers on my level that I interact with, from time to time. And of course, as you know, that when
mm.
you and I meet and
Yeah,
we chat and have those coffee conversations,
yeah,
to really just draw
mm,
to draw on those people
yeah,
that are your peers.
mm,
And then, of course, taking some people with you. Because there are three types of tables I think that you need to sit at
mhm.
as a leader. The first is with people, the tables where you cannot contribute anything
You're
at
just
that
learning.
level.
Mm,
You just shut up and you just keep quiet and you just listen
mm,
because the level and the frequency at which these people are operating at is miles and miles, many, many years ahead of you.
Mm.
So you have to have a table like that that inspires you. La kuzosho khona uswazi, yabo.
Ulalele nje uthatha
And it can be
ama-notes.
painful.
Ubhala
Thatha
ama-notes.
amanothi bakushaya abantu bakuphoqoze, yabo.
Yeah.
And you just clean on them.
Mm.
And then the second table you need to sit at is the table of your peers, where you contest ideas,
Mm.
and you share experiences and you challenge one another. And yeah, well, that
Mm.
peer to peer type of learning and pouring into and etc. And
Mm.
then the third table is where you speak, and the people that are sitting at that table they just listen,
Mm.
because those are people that you are taking along with you.
Yes.
That's where you feel most fulfilled, because uswazi when uyalithola phezulu, but na afuna ube khona nabantu okwazi ukulidedela kubona
Usha.
uswazi.
Yes.
Because it gives you that fulfillment, yeah, well, that
Mm.
you are making a difference in other people's lives, and they see value in you, and they can be inspired by you and can be led by you. And yeah, well, so those are some of the things
Mm.
that I actively do. Oh, and another last one I think is very important.
Yes.
I've almost made it a lifestyle to put myself in uncomfortable situations.
Sure.
I think it
Mm.
was probably about 2 years ago where I started the year off this, because I had this paralyzing fear of some of the things that I'm sort
Mm.
of destined, to venture into.
Mm.
And I remember deciding at the beginning of that year, Oguti, let me start taking a deep dive into the things that scare me the most.
Mm. Mm.
So I'm not gonna sit and think about consequences and the factors and strategy. I'm not going to do all of that, because if I spend too much of time thinking about it, I'll end up convincing myself not to do it.
I get you.
So I
Mm.
started by saying, if I fear it and it scares me, but it's in line with what I'm meant to be doing, I
Mm.
just take a deep dive into the thing.
Sure.
So practically, it meant
Mm.
I had to now start becoming comfortable in uncomfortable spaces and places and situations.
Mm.
So I started exposing myself deliberately, even to the things that I fear and I'm scared of.
Sure.
And again, this idea of letting go of the outcome.
Mm.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I'm not gonna die, right?
Yes.
It's either I do it and it works, or
Mm.
I do it, it doesn't work. I can cut my losses earlier. I can use that failure as learning capital for me to do better next time.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
It's like going to that table number one and just constantly sitting in that table every time. And you are not
Yeah.
comfortable, you are not comfortable with whatever that's been spoken there, what they say, but I'm there.
Yeah. Painful. Back
Mm.
podcast, they hold you accountable. They're telling you, Guti, I mean, you're wasting time. What are you doing? You know,
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Painful.
So,
But it's good pain.
yeah. So what are you currently reading in your library? What are you currently reading?
I'm actually reading a book by Paul Detour. Currently, it's The Exceptional Speaker,
Mm.
because I'm honing my craft. So as I said, I'm a lifelong student, whether it's leadership or speaking or anything that I'm doing.
Mm.
So that's what I'm reading at the moment. The Exceptional Speaker by Paul Detour.
Mm.
Incredible.
I found that you are I don't know, maybe it's your voice, right? But you are somebody who speaks with conviction whenever you either presenting something. There's a surety of I know what I'm talking about you. I don't know if you have noticed that or you know about it or you've ever been told about before, but what shaped that? I found that you have a in your voice, you are firm in whatever that you are talking about or presenting, and there's a sense of faith and belief behind whatever that you're delivering.
It's interesting that you say that because well, I never see it or I'm never cognizant of it.
Mm,
But the reaction a lot of the time, whenever I have to, speak on a platform, maybe deliver a keynote, or even just share
mm,
briefly on anything really,
mm,
there's always an awe, or a profound impact, a deep impact that happens in people's minds and hearts.
mm,
And I have no idea. Again,
mm,
I think it's just probably the grace of God or a gift that I carry because I
mm,
can't attribute that to anything that's sort of intentional on my part.
mm,
I think for me, I never, well, I try not to speak on anything that I don't have a deep conviction about.
I get you.
So
Yeah.
I'm very careful with my words and what I say when I say it and when I'm contributing in spaces.
Mm,
Because if I don't know, I'd rather keep quiet and let our better learned or better experienced peers speak into that,
mm,
so that we can all learn,
mm,
rather than just opening your mouth for the sake of opening your mouth.
mm.
Yeah.
No, I get you. I think um maybe I'll come for advice as well. I've got an invitation to come and speak somewhere at a speaker association, and I'm like, the first thing that came to my head is like, what am I gonna tell people who are professional speakers? I'm not even a professional speaker. you know. But when you now say that, speak on something that you have deep conviction of,
Yes,
um,
sir.
and then in that room it will come across um out from whatever you're talking about. It'll be clear that this is something you're convicted about, whether you are young or old, but this is my conviction of what I'm talking about. And anybody who's under the sound of your voice will
Mhm.
definitely pick it up to say, okay, this one is just not saying this thing. There's a deep conviction about that. Um,
Um,
yes.
so just on that quickly, it's interesting because people can argue
Mm,
about your competence.
mm,
They can argue about your intellectual capital.
mm,
They can argue about your level of experience,
mm,
but they can never argue about your conviction
mm,
because conviction defies logic.
true. Mm,
If you think about it,
mm,
conviction defies logic. So before I even have to start logically processing what you're saying,
mm.
it's impossible for me to walk away with not believing that at least you believe everything that you've said.
Yes.
And automatically that, because subconsciously what happens is, hey, well, why is this person so convicted about this thing? It must
Mm,
be true, right?
yes.
It must be real. That's why.
Yes.
So you sort of subconsciously give someone the permission to believe in it as well because you're so convicted about it. And I think that's
Mm,
an attitude that we need to have about everything that we hold, that we care about, at least.
mm. I want to dive into Kulisha and the work that you guys do. I think you are doing a very important work of making sure that you are empowering entrepreneurs, teams, in organizations to also be able to function amongst themselves and also function together to build on a bigger vision that they have. Maybe expand on. I was interested in one of your values where you said we are faith. I think faith driven. In one of your values for your company, and I was like, yeah,
Mm,
it's always most people who start companies never bring their faith into it because maybe a religion is a contested space. But I was interested in you bringing into that how important it is that as children of God, in whatever that we do, God still prevails and shows up.
mm, sure. Um, yeah, so did one of our core company values is crazy faith,
Crazy faith, yes,
crazy,
yeah.
crazy. And for us, it wasn't even about religion.
Mm,
It was that fundamental understanding of if you want to change the world, if you want to make an impact, if you want to shift, um, the economy or people in business or leaders, if you want to impact the systems of the world, you need to have some level of faith
mm,
in that you'll be able to do that, right?
mm,
And for us, because of our sector and our industry, so we run a transformation and training consultancy,
mm,
which is Kulisha Consulting, and we exist within the profit consulting and professional services industry within the broader management consulting sector.
yes.
So by nature, our industry and our sector is has a lot of high level things and systems and structures and
Mm,
people, the human element, and there's a lot that's in the space. In order for you to make an impact or to add value to businesses and leaders that are in that space, you have to have some level of crazy faith in
mm,
order to believe that you can do that, which is why that specific value is there. But we love the work that we're doing. Our vision as a business is to create a legacy of entrepreneurial leadership in Africa
mm,
as a business. And we do that through enterprise and business development. We do that through implementation work around CSI, sustainable philanthropy, enterprise supply development, and
yes, sir. Um,
my
yeah,
leader.
yeah, we are back. You can carry on expanding. You're still talking about your vision as a company.
Oh yeah, that's where we ended off.
Yes.
So I was saying that our vision is to create a legacy of entrepreneurial leadership in Africa
Mm,
because we believe, of course, there's a leadership crisis in Africa, and we need entrepreneurial leaders, people that think in like an entrepreneur. They think about seeing opportunity in problems,
mm,
creating value, and then capturing that value through
mm,
some monetary gain. So that's what we believe.
mm,
And we work with a range of businesses by offering really just three core services.
mm,
The one being business strategy and enterprise support. The second being enterprise supply development, transformation, and work in that sector, whether it's sustainable philanthropy, etc. And then the third is our human capital and leadership development, where a
mm,
lot of our training and coaching work sits in working with leaders, running accredited and non accredited training programs. So
mm,
that's what we do in our firm, and we love it, man. We live for it. And we do believe that there's a breed of entrepreneurial leaders that are rising
mm,
in Africa, in different spaces and different shapes and forms.
mm. Now, I think you're doing a very important work because we definitely lack entrepreneurs with a vision like that who are entrepreneurial. I mean, we lack leaders who are entrepreneurial, who are able to see um, solutions and opportunities and problems. I think that's why our current state we are in, even in terms of leadership, both in Africa as a whole or in South Africa as a whole, is because we have leaders who says they're leaders by name, but there's a struggle of finding solutions or opportunities and problems to solve those problems. And
Mm,
maybe we can say that there are people who are positional leaders. They're just leaders by
mm,
position, but they are not entirely solving the problem that's there. Um, in the diaspora at large, So I think that's where we are in your important work that you're doing is um the one that is needed. So yeah, like
Mm.
maybe where do you see Kulisha? You have plans of taking it international as well and impacting throughout, or you still have you wanna go across Africa and impact it before you take it abroad?
I think we're very deliberate. So as much as we do have international exposure and reach
Mm,
because of the work that we've done both individually
mm,
and what
mm,
we've the solutions that we've developed within our firm.
mm.
But we are quite deliberate that our focus is on Africa,
Yeah.
because one of our core value propositions that our solutions are, are African are centered around
Mm,
African solutions,
mm.
because it's disingenuous to think that a solution from Oxford and Harvard in
Will
Europe
solve
somewhere
will solve African
will
problem.
solve Africa's problems.
Mm,
It's lazy, it's disingenuous, and I think we need to apply ourselves and be creative and innovate and be deliberate because we understand our own context. So
mm,
we understand the African context, both from a research and capabilities and experience,
mm,
and our solutions, whether it's leadership solutions or sustainable philanthropy solutions or enterprise supply development solutions or business strategy, all of it is centered around understanding these principles and the local context of
mm,
Africa. So who knows, God willingly, we might have a global firm in the next many years,
mm.
but we're very deliberate in our focus on Africa.
I like that. I like that because we cannot expect other people to come and solve our problems. We have to
Mm,
be, yeah, the ones that are creating solutions for our problem because we live in these problems. We live in these problems. We experience
mm.
these problems. Therefore, we are best people to provide solutions to these problems. So I love the
Yes, sir.
vision, yeah, and made grow, made touch all 54, was it African countries, made go
Mm,
across to those different places. So we solve those problems. Um,
mm.
yeah. So I think I've really enjoyed this conversation. We have I also want to have you again for other things. But I think I think today we have expanded a lot. Um, and I'm very appreciative of your knowledge, appreciative of your wisdom, appreciative of your deep conviction of things that you speak about. And like I said, there's a certainty with your voice when you speak something. And I hope that whoever's gonna be listening to this conversation grab something out of it. And also, I pray my prayers that may your voice be heard in different places and rooms that needs it, and they get convicted themselves as well to
Mm,
move um, in the direction that they are supposed to move. So thank you so
mm, mm,
much. And one thing I appreciate about you is the intentionality that you have in terms of building the community or the relationships that you want to build and pouring into the next person. And I think that's something that we can all adopt to be
mm,
intentional about um, connecting, intentional about. And I like the fact, maybe it's because you already expressed that you are an experiential learner, therefore, the intentionality of being in the presence of people comes across very
mm,
um, vividly. And I think all of us should be have an element of that so that we can be able to absorb and consume um, from others as well and learn from them. So
mm.
thank you so much for gracing us. And what are your parting words to my people that are listening to you, and what do you like to leave them with?
Um, just go be great, man.
Mm,
I think we, yeah, just move.
mm,
If the more we move, the more things become clearer, And the more we're able to make a positive impact
mm.
in whatever space or fear. And I think don't suffocate the gift.
Yes,
Don't
very important.
don't suffocate the vision.
Mm,
Don't suffocate the gift, but distribute the gift that's
mm,
inside of you.
mm,
Because there's an entire audience that's waiting. There's an
mm,
entire market. I think Dr. Miles Monroe, I think this will be the best way to part.
mm,
He once said, in blessed memory, once said that um, every product is created with a market in mind.
mm,
So when you were created, it means that you as a product in the world, you have an entire market, an entire industry that's waiting for you,
mm,
waiting
mm.
for your gift.
Sure.
And I think, yeah, distribute the gift, identify it and distribute it. And let's try and make the world a bit better and leave it a bit better than we
Mm,
found it.
on it.
It's our collective responsibility to do that. And thanks for having me, my brother. It was really, really good. Always, always awesome chatting to you, both formally now on a podcast
Yeah,
and our informal chats.
yeah. So thank you so much, man. Where do we find Kulisha? Where do people find, how can they reach you? If they want to bring you on as well as a speaker, as well as, bring you to come and help them in their organizations, where can they find you?
All right. Also, I mean, they can just reach out to us. I think, well, we are headquartered in Durban,
Mm,
Musgrave, but we do work across the country and across spaces. But they can, find us. I'll share my personal email if that would
mm,
be helpful,
mm,
which is Kwazini at kulishaconsulting.com. So Kulisha without an H. So
mm.
Kulisha,
Yes.
Kulisha Consulting, Kwazini at kulishaconsulting.com. And then, of
Mm,
course, we are on socials. I'm not much of um, a social media person. I try here and there,
mm,
but people can reach out to us on social media. My handles are Kwazini Zulu everywhere,
mm.
across on all platforms, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. And yeah, we're happy to have a chat about your next project or whatever value that we can add to you through what we offer.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. I must come and train one of your team members so they can run your social medias. Um, give them
Yeah,
insights,
maybe
yeah,
maybe we should do that.
to to help you out. As a businessman, you need to have, even though you are not there, but your profile should exist somewhere where it constantly shares your insights, and it
Mm.
can be a link to get you to certain platforms or speak in different places. So I think that could be something that one can do to help one of your team members to help you, with holding some of those platforms while you are building the plane as well. So thank you so much. And
No,
yeah,
that's excellent. I think we'll take you up on that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, no worries. Thank you so much. This is Leadership Talks with Ratiba, and our aim is just to empower you, inspire you, and give you insights for a better future ahead. So thank you so much for listening. Follow us on all platforms on social media. Check Empowerment Podcast everywhere on social media, and then we are under Empowerment Podcast, even on YouTube, on Spotify, everywhere you find your podcast. Please check us out. And thank you so much for listening. And till next time, thank you.
Empowerment Podcast. Inspire, equip, and empower.